do a quick prayer? To ask somebody. Go ahead. Go ahead. Do everybody stand, do a prayer.
Lord, we come before you today with thanksgiving in our hearts that we live in the greatest country that experiment has ever been. Lord, we know we have this country because your hand is upon it. Lord, we ask that we continue to be upon us to guide and lead and direct us. Lord, we thank you for this meeting today. We thank you for this food. We bless our life and strengthen us. Lord, for those who are here to speak, Lord, bring us a message that is filled with hope and encouragement. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Remain standing. Wes Duncan will lead us in the pledge.
Okay.
Flag behind me.
Please put your Please put your hand on your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bill's going to introduce Wes, and Wes is this month's spotlight, a short little blurb until noon.
So I'm going to introduce Wes. I'm heading down to San Diego tonight for the Combat Veterans Association and their PAC. We just got clearance to open a Combat Veterans PAC for Nevada, and it'll be a state PAC, and Wes is the first endorsement.
Bill, get closer to the mic.
So now can you hear it? I guess I'm used to my other mics. I'll say it again. So I'm heading down to San Diego. I'm heading down to Long Beach tonight at 4 o'clock or 6 o'clock, somewhere in there. And we got the okay to have a PAC for combat veterans for Nevada. It'll be the first state PAC. We also have a super PAC and a regular PAC. It's called, if you can go up online and go Combat Veterans PAC. Combat Veterans for guys back in DC, but Wes is the first person to endorse. He doesn't know that yet.
Oh, well.
Congratulations in Nevada. Combat veteran, Iraq.
Thanks. Thank you.
Bill, just before we have Wes speak, real brief, Tony Harsh wants to say thank you for Monday night.
Yes, thank you so much for Monday night. We put out a plea to come to regional planning to address a particular PUD, North Valley, Stonegate. Anyway, I want to let you know it was standing room only. People were sitting on the floor. The testimony was 4 hours long. So it was a technical denial for that particular amendment to the PUD. We did make a difference, and we made a difference because we all lined up with our neighbors from all over. And it will go to governing board for approvals, but I think we'll get a much better project, and it was because all of you listened and really showed up. So thank you for making a difference for this community.
Thank you, Tony. Bill, you want it general and got cheated out of it, but anyway, he's running for Washoe County DA, and he's a combat veteran. Wes, go ahead.
Thank you so much. One thing is nice to be able to get an endorsement you didn't even ask for. So that works out nice. So thank you, Bill. I really appreciate that. Again, Wes Duncan, I'm running for Washoe County District Attorney. I want to tell you a quick story which I think illustrates one of the reasons why I'm running. So in the late 70s, there were a series of disappearances by young women that were in their either late teens or early 20s. In 1978, there was a 17-year-old circus waitress named Jeannie Smith, who after getting off a shift at the circus, left with some friends and disappeared, and was found months later in the time out in Hungry Valley, which we know in the 1970s was very, very far removed from Sparks and from Reno. She was found with a blunt force injury to her head where she was killed. She had bandages over her eyes. She was zip tied her underwear was missing, a shoe was missing, and her ID was missing. In 1979, a young woman named Julia Woodward was living in the Bay Area, and Julia wanted to make a new life for herself in Reno as a 19-year-old looking for a job here. So she jumped on a plane at SFO, kissed her family goodbye that day, and came to the Reno area. And that was the last time that her family ever saw her. And she was found later that year also in Hungry Valley, about 1.5 miles away from where Jeannie Smith was, with a blunt force impact to her skull. She had zip ties, bandages over her eyes, and again, a shoe missing, and someone else. There was a third hitchhiker around our area that went missing around the same time, and unfortunately, her body was never found. So everyone believed at the time that that there was some sort of serial killer that was in the area and that was doing this to these young women. Years and years go by, and these murders are never solved. And in 2015, the Washoe County Sheriff's Office stood up a cold case unit where they started looking at some of these old cases. And through some out-of-the-box thinking, one of the detectives said, you know, maybe we should test the genes of Julia Woodward and test some of the evidence at the scene and see if there's any hits. As you may or may not know, DNA evidence over the years has gotten a lot more sophisticated, and they enter people's DNA in most states when you have a conviction of some sort. And then it goes into this thing called the combined index, and it's called CODIS, and you can have matches and hits. Well, lo and behold, they tested the genes of Julia Woodward at the scene, and sure enough, a DNA match that wasn't hers popped up, and it hit for a 2007 conviction for a guy named Charles Sullivan. Now, Charles Sullivan was a former Navy SEAL, kind of an aloof guy, an avid outdoorsman. And the reason that he was convicted is that he was on Highway 20, so not very far from where we are, was on Highway 20, and he encountered a hitchhiker, picked her up, proceeded to take her into the woods, and did a few different things. He zip tied her. He tried to sexually assault her. Fortunately, this victim was able to get away, ran into some other hikers. He was ultimately convicted. His DNA was entered into the system. So the sheriff's office was very excited about the fact that they had a hit in CODIS, and that they could potentially go forward with this case. Now, if you are a parent, and I am a parent to 4 children, if you can imagine the years and years of unrest that you probably have for not being able to know who can I bring to justice for who killed my loved one, you can imagine that when the sheriff's office reached out and said, we have a match for a convicted guy who did a very similar thing, you can imagine that if you're a mom or dad, there was a little bit of hope that sprang up for you, right? Well, the sheriff's office proceeded to work with the FBI, and their DNA unit also brought out a Department of Justice lawyer. The sheriff's office all presented a case to the Washoe County District Attorney's office. And when that case was presented to District Attorney Hicks's office, that case was ultimately declined for prosecution. Now, the lieutenant, who's now a retired lieutenant who can speak a little bit more candidly about it, talked about how Mr. Hicks was, he characterized as being upset and was more worried about what he characterized as a win rate, like a case that you've got to win, than being able to try to just bring the forward case and see if you can get a conviction. So you can understand from a sheriff's deputy's perspective, from a parent's perspective, that was incredibly taking the wind out of the sails is an understatement for what happened. And ultimately, that case was declined prosecution by the district attorney's office, but Attorney General Aaron Ford actually took the case. Now I have, as Ray just said, I have some history with Aaron Ford, and he's not exactly what you would call maybe the toughest on crime prosecutor, but he ultimately took the case, secured the conviction, and Charles Sullivan is currently in prison for his crimes. I tell that story because it really highlights just a microcosm of the issues that we are seeing in our county. And I'm running for district attorney, and I told you I have 4 kids, but I want to make our county the safest place to call home and to raise a family. And we need a district attorney that's willing to stand in the gap in those types of cases and take those type of tough cases and get justice for victims in our community. I can tell you that I was unanimously endorsed by our law enforcement associations in this region, and it's specifically because this district attorney's office, because of the policies of District Attorneys Hicks, is they are not going forward on cases that are provable cases, and it is demoralizing our police department, and ultimately, we are creating a more unsafe community. We have murderers in this community that their cases haven't went forward on because that DA's office won't go forward on cases because of their charging policy. And so I've told people quite simply, as your district attorney, and I hope to earn your support, we will get back into the business of locking dangerous criminals up. We will not be afraid of taking a stand and trying to get justice in those type of cases. And we will make it very clear that it is a new day for public safety in the county of Washoe, and we will not tolerate things like murder, like gang activity, like fentanyl coming into our communities, domestic battery, retail theft, and all of those different things. We're also going to reunite the district attorney's office with the law enforcement community. And this is very important because think about this. The very partners that you're supposed to have on a daily basis, the police and the sheriff's office, they're the ones that bring the bad guys in. And then, of course, the district attorney is the one that prosecutes the case and lock them up. If you can imagine, actually, the political courage it took for law enforcement to come forward and say, we absolutely need a change in this community because this district attorney's office is not listening to us. They're not communicating. And ultimately, they're not going forward on very, very dangerous cases. On day one, we will absolutely change that. And finally, I'll just say this, in the city of Sparks, we've been able to do, I think, very innovative things. We were the first jurisdiction, for example, to pass prohibitions on public camping, right? We were the first ones that said, we're not going to turn the city of Sparks into Seattle or San Francisco or any of these other type of big cities that, let the choices of a few have the detriment of many people in the community. So we were the first to do that. We continue to pass those ordinances. We have a HOPE team that tries to connect the homeless to services. Like, I'm an Iraq War veteran, a current Air Force reservist. I have compassion for folks that are living in those communities. But if you are resisting services and your resistance is causing public health and public safety issues, you have to be able to enforce the law. That's what we've done in the city of Sparks. Retail theft is out of control. If you go to stores now, you see things locked up. You see people running out of stores and nobody's chasing them down. We took a stand in the city of Sparks by passing what we called our Back Our Businesses initiative. So, the legislature diluted a bunch of the laws. I'm prosecuting things in a city attorney's office. We have misdemeanor jurisdiction that used to be felonies just a few short years ago. And we took a stand and said, we're not going to tolerate retail theft in our community. We're going to increase the plainclothes presence of our officers. Our office has a zero tolerance policy for retail theft. You are not going to come into the city of Sparks and rip off businesses because retail theft impacts everybody. And, finally, we took a hard stand on domestic violence. We passed a first of its kind ordinance that prohibits domestic violence in the presence of children. We take a hard stand on those because we know that domestic violence leads to all sorts of other type of crimes in our community. We've done a senior scam initiatives. We did an initiative on fentanyl. And I just ask you, go downtown to Reno at any time of the day or certainly at any time of the night and ask yourself, does Reno feel like a safe community to you? Does it feel like a place that you want to do business, that you want to be walking around? I'll tell you, my 12-year-old son, who's a very savvy kid, we were down at the Reno Light the Arch Blue event for our police officers, and we got done with the event. It was about 7:45, and he said, "Dad, I kind of don't feel very safe down here," right? And let's get back to Sparks, but no, but I just ask you, like, we need innovative thinking in the county to be able to combat dangerous criminals, and I hope that I can earn your support to do it. So again, Wes Duncan, running for DA. You can check us out on wesduncan.com. Thanks so much.
I don't know how much time Wes has after the meeting, but he'll be available. Do you have a website?
Yes. wesduncan.com.
Oh, no, not yet. After. I can't hear what she's saying.
So that's a great question. I mean, in terms of succession planning, like I really think from a leadership perspective, you want to be able to have people that you can work with at the Reno City Attorney's Office, the Sparks City Attorney's Office, and your law enforcement partners. So we have, of course, people within our office that I've hired who are great attorneys. So I think we're going to have a host of different options that'll all be great options for the city of Sparks. Yeah, I will.
All right,
I got to win first, though.
We'll save the questions. Let's proceed. It's a very good honor to put two speakers today going to talk about report card on the legislature, be it as it may. First is Dr. Robin Titus, the Senate Minority Leader, and Josh Skaggs, the Nevada Political Director. With that, go ahead, Robin, you two. And try to come up to the mic so they can hear you. Same thing, Josh. No, closer.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Ray, and thanks, Wes, for being here and bringing all of the issues you brought forward. I actually was going to ask, before I get started, Ray, I think it's important to ask Wes, does he have the judicial support that he would need to accomplish all of this? Because you can arrest him all day long, but if the judges let him back out on the street, I think that's one of the things we're seeing not only statewide, but nationally. And so it's a real concern. So maybe you can, at some point, I'm going to put a little time to Wes right now, because I want an answer to that question.
Go ahead.
Do you have judicial support?
Well, I think certainly in Washoe County, we've seen that our judges are certainly more, like Clark County is experiencing judges who are very resistant to locking people up. And I would say that for the most part, the judges that I appeared in front of in Washoe County were certainly willing to listen to arguments, especially about community safety. I think you have to make clear too, as a district attorney, what are the priority crimes in your community, and that can be a moving target when you're working with law enforcement. But you have to communicate that to the judiciary to say, hey, we're seeing a crime trend in retail theft. So when we ask for a sentence, we're going to be asking for stiffer sentences for the deterrent effect. So I don't see, of course, Biden appointed judges and those kind of things, right? Where you're undermining the rule of law. I don't see that in Washoe County.
Well, thanks for that tolerance, Ray, because that brings me into what I wanted to say about the legislative process and what happened out in Carson City. One of the things that didn't pass, we had 120 days to pass over or not pass over 1,200 bills that were introduced. Of those 1,200 bills, the governor signed 500 of the 1,210 bills introduced, 536 passed, and Governor Lombardo, again, he surpassed his record of vetoes and he vetoed 87 of them. Again, mostly protecting, again, our fiscal priorities and constitutional liberties. But one of the bills that did not pass, because of delay and maneuvering by the Democrats, was the governor's, community safety and crime bill. And as Wes mentioned, one of the things that absolutely was in that bill is lowering that threshold for theft. And why bother, arresting anybody if the judges are just going to let them out? But our small businesses need protection, and the governor was all on board with that. And unfortunately, the Democrats who actually control the narrative were not. And so just I think I know most people in the room, but I'm going to give a little introduction on myself. I'm the Senate Minority Leader. I've had now 6 terms in the legislative process, 4 in the Assembly and 2 in the Senate. I am running for re-election, and I am very adamant that there is a pathway, finally, for us to be in the majority in the Senate. We will stay certainly out of the superminority, and the Assembly will stay out of the superminority. But we recognize I'm a physician. I've been a family practice physician and graduated from med school. I'm an old doc, graduated from med school in Reno in 1981. And have been the Lyon County Health Officer for 40 years. I wear a lot of hats. I founded our Smith Valley Historical Society, and I'm still the health officer, so I'm still practicing medicine. But I got into politics because of the Affordable Care Act, which was neither affordable nor about care. And I felt strongly as a physician that there were policymakers making healthcare decisions that had absolutely no idea about what it's like to be a practicing physician, and literally having staff on the phone, if not myself, for hours trying to get authorization to give care. And I'm looking at the patient, and somebody on the other line was denying me what I felt was the appropriate thing to do. So that's what jumped me into politics. But I'm also a rural physician. So I represent Lyon County, Douglas County, Esmeralda County, Churchill County, Mineral County, and Nye County. So I tell people the most beautiful part of our state, the whole western kind of slopes. And I have I think the best demographics of any place in our state. And it covers our state. I have the Casino Corridor in South Lake Tahoe. I have the farming communities of Churchill and Lyon. I have the lithium mines. I have Fallon Naval Air Station. I have Goldfield and Tonopah. And last week I took a rural road trip with our lieutenant governor, and we went out to the Yamba tribe. And probably the only other person in this room besides my 2 staff members is Patty Caffaretta, who's been out to the Yamba tribe. And I took the lieutenant governor on this road trip, and he has never been on a dirt road that long in his life. But that guy's willing to get out there. And so this brings just this experience of the overall needs from the urban and Washoe and the Clark to all the rural counties that I represent. I want to give a shout out to our governor before I go any further, because I am passionately engaged in getting Lombardo reelected. I think we may not all agree with everything that he has done, but I can tell you, I also was there when Sisolak was there, and oh my goodness, the 87 vetoes this time around from Joe Lombardo is proof enough that he's there for all of us and recognizes what he needs to do. Having said that, Josh is going to, I have to also give a shout out to Josh. Josh, this probably last session, we had more Republicans come and testify against bills or for bills when appropriate. I sit on money committees, always healthcare committees, some of the rural committees sometimes, but education committees. Josh or somebody was there, and many folks in this room were engaged in the process. The fact that you guys are here is critical, because you have to stay engaged in the process. Now, rarely do the Democrats listen to fact. Actually, they testify on emotion. Most of the time, even the majority leader, Senator Nicole Kenazar, who wants to be your next attorney general, she starts off her bill hearings by crying about them and makes them emotional. So she opens up to testimony in tears and then says how important it is to get whatever bill it is she's passing. That is not how you legislate, but that's how they do it. and they get people to, oh my God, this is so sad. I legislate on fact and knowledge and information, just as Wes did, it brought you what the realities are. They don't want to hear reality. They legislate on emotion. So when you vet candidates, please, do they have the facts? Do they have the information? What does it really mean to you? Will the changes be? Don't let them, it's okay to cry. I mean, I can cry at a sad movie. That's okay. But when you're passing laws, do not let them get to you emotionally. And I swear, they don't want to listen to facts. You can go all day long, testify with facts. They're still, if you cry a lot, somehow or other, their heartstrings are pulled. And believe me, it works for them. It doesn't work for me. I want to see the facts. Thank you. And so I'm going to share this stage here with Josh, get his point. And if it's okay with Ray, because this is your deal, I'd like to kind of go back and forth and give, because I can talk forever. And see, Ray knows. And so I want to kind of turn that mic over to Josh and make sure if there's questions that you have for us that we can cover kind of that scenario. So the overview of the session that I can see scorecard is too many Democrats, not enough Republicans. Yes, there was good testimony from those in the room and many other folks, people like Josh. Thank God we have Governor Lombardo. We're working hard to get in the majority next session, and I'll give you that pathway again per math. We have 3 seats that we can pick up, and they're all in Clark County. That doesn't mean that Washoe County and the North can't be involved because it takes money. We're looking at each one of these Senate races, looking at $1 million for a Senate race in Clark County. So just so you know, we have 4 Republican slots up for re-election because of the gerrymandering that has happened. We're all in solid R districts. I'm up for re-election. I'm in the most red district. I think I'm in a 28 to 30. My staff can 32. So my chief of staff is John Staub. He's sitting there. And he just kept me online. And then Ryan Qualls is helping me run my campaign. We're so committed to getting the majority of these 3 seats that we're moving Ryan. Although she's a Northern Nevada gal and a horse gal, we're moving her down to Clark County so that we can have a presence down there. She's taking her horse, so she can go down to Clark County and be there. So those are 2 folks, please reach out to. It's going to be a big fiscal note. I'm flying down on August 15th to meet with the governor and Minority Leader Hafen and the governor's team. And we're getting a plan on how to do this. The governor's on board. He's probably already running ads against the 3 seats that we have identified. My district's solid, so I'm District 17. Ira Hansen's up for re-election. He's a solid R district. Jeff Stone's up for re-election in Clark County, solid R district, and Lisa Krasner, who I believe's district is where we're sitting, is up for re-election. And so, but they're solid R's. And even though people kind of cringe when I say this, but the reality is whoever wins the primary in those districts you're going to have a Republican in that. And so hopefully my district will support me, but this is bigger than any one individual. And so my emphasis is the R districts are solid. We need to focus on the 3 in Clark County. So I said I was going to turn to Josh, and then I kept talking. So here, Josh.
Before I have Josh start, I just want to remind you, we are live streaming right now, and we do video all this, and within 2 hours, you'll be able to see the whole meeting. And we're getting 400 or 500 people besides the live stream that watch the meetings. With that in mind, Josh, take it.
Thank you very much. My name is Joshua Skaggs, and I work for the Nevada Republican Party. So I'd like to first of all thank Chairman Michael J. McDonald and Jim Hindle and RNC Committeeman Jim DeGraffenry and the entire executive board at the Nevada Republican Party. And please visit our website at nevadagop.org and sign up for our alerts. And of course, I have to thank Senator Robin Titus for all your help at the legislature. This wasn't my first time working for the Nevada GOP. It was the second time, and my first time was in 2019. And we had Governor Sisolak, and it was a very different atmosphere back then. But, we had some victories back then. And here in 2025, Senator Robin Titus, thank you for everything. The Lyon County Fair is coming up soon, and I always love getting out in the community and registering voters. And thank you to your commitment and service to Nevada. Thank you. It's been an honor. And, last year I had the privilege of working as the deputy election integrity director for the Trump campaign, for his reelection campaign. And we got him in there for a third time, right? But, so I want to talk about election integrity first, real quickly. If it wasn't for Governor Lombardo, we might have open primaries where a Democrat could change their registration and vote. And we kind of have that now with same-day voter registration. But they want to expand open primaries in our state. They wanted, with AB 306, which was veto, it was the governor's first veto, mail-in drop boxes. You know how there's 3 days between the 14 early days of early voting, and there's that 3-day gap between election day and when early voting ends. They wanted to put mail drop boxes for those days where they can stuff as many ballots as humanly possible and try to change the direction of an election. And, Speaker Yeager, he said that he thinks that would alleviate the vote counts by about 50,000 voters. And I said, so you really need to have this kind of infrastructure to count 50,000 votes, and it's very important that we get Governor Lombardo reelected. It's very important. There was a lot of, we testified over 150 times at the Nevada GOP, whether it was me, people that are in this room, and we had a lot of help and a lot of advice. And we wrote a ton of testimony. And what I noticed is how politicized the Democrats are angry, and they have politicized their legislative seats in the worst ways possible. Thank God for Governor Lombardo, especially when it came to SB 171, which would have made Nevada a sanctuary state for doctors who perform gender surgeries on minors. Many states are outlawing it, and they also wanted to make to where a doctor can come here and not get extradited to another state for committing, I think, crimes on children. So that got vetoed. There was an attempt to take the powers away from the school board when it came to obscene materials that are in our libraries. I believe that was AB 416. And they wanted to make it extremely difficult to remove these. And I remember the people testifying what they were reading of the books that they found in the school libraries. It's absolutely insane. I grew up reading the Hardy Boys in school and very wholesome stuff. and I can't believe that this is in our schools. So, there was a lot of, it was very emotional, and Senator Titus is right. They lead with emotion. And the only time that I really got super emotional was when they brought together AJ 14, where they condemned everybody that was there on January 6, 2021. And they condemned President Trump and his pardons of people. And they're just sitting on their seats, politicizing everything, condemning. And, and during my testimony, I had it's sad, but I gave a moment of silence to Corey Compatore, who was murdered in Butler, Pennsylvania, and for Ashley Babbitt, who was the only person that was killed on January 6, 2021. So, and I reminded them, this type of behavior is what causes divisiveness, anger in the American people, and we need to come together and find a way to love one another, because the Democrats in Carson City have gone insane. And we can use all this information coming up in the midterms. The midterms, we know, are always a challenge. I remember 2018. I went to sleep that night, and it was Barbara Sagaski winning for Secretary of State, and Wes Duncan had a small lead over Aaron Ford. And, he was winning. And when I woke up, I believe it was the next day, you barely lost to Aaron Ford. And I just think of what the ripple effects would be if Aaron Ford didn't get elected, and we would have had, Attorney General Wes Duncan in there. So, these midterms are very important. The Democrats have given us a lot of stuff to use to people that are everyday Americans. We can reach the independent and the nonpartisan voters. They've given us a lot to talk about at the legislature. Would you agree, Senator Titus?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
So fortunately in Nevada, and thanks, Josh, fortunately in Nevada, the the refugees from California, and many of you are those, that are coming to Clark County and Washoe County and my community too in Smith Valley, that's where I live, are the ones that are running away from the bad policies that happened in California. And so we now in Nevada, for the first time in decades, we have, where it's close. I think the Democrats, maybe, John, you can give us some numbers there. But we finally, for a long time, my political career, the Democrats outnumbered us in registered voters by about 90,000 plus. Since the voter registration at the DMV and the mass immigration of legal Californians, it's kind of shifted the political nature in the state. And so Clark County is now I don't know what the absolute registration is. John, can you give that figure?
From October 2020, Democrats out-registered Republicans by 4.8%, so basically 5 points. And now for the first time since 2007, we're tied in voter registration. So we took their 5-point advantage, and now it's an even playing ground. If you ask right track, wrong track, more people are saying right track than ever before in 21 years. So all the way back since 2001. So everything's looking really good.
And so with that is why, number one, I had already mentioned, we have that pathway to the majority, because we see that these 3 seats that we're going to pick up, one is a 2+ our district, D+3. So Josh kind of mentioned early on, so those are 3. I was part of that cycle that he mentioned about when the Republicans took everything in 2015. Well, 2014 was the actual election. 2015 was the session. And then there's many political pundits out there who say the Republicans never, ever failed to blow a chance. And in 2015, we did actually, because in 2015, we voted for the largest tax increase in the state of Nevada history. I did not support that. I was one of the Republicans that did not vote for that. All the Republicans that did were unelected or didn't run again, with the exception of PK, who I don't know what he saw the evil in his ways, I think, and he ran ultimately again and has served well. And I don't know if he's going to run again or not. But in any case, it was a huge setback for Republicans when we had an opportunity to really do good work, and we did not, in my mind. But here's what that perfect storm was all about. And Wes was in the assembly at the time. Josh, you've been around a long time too, but the setup was this, and this is what's unique about this upcoming election, and it's really important to note. There is no president on the race. There is no senator on the race. So this is that in-between time where we have, of course, the congressional candidates are elected every 2 years, so they're always there. But we don't have any outside national candidates on our ballot this time. This race will be about Lombardo and Aaron Ford. Lombardo is polling well, regardless of what Ralston might say. He is still polling well. He has done a great job. And Aaron Ford's name recognition is only about 30%. And so to that end, we can use this as an opportunity to pick up these seats. This is, again, due to gerrymandering, this may be our last opportunity for a while. Once we get in that majority, then the conversation and the narrative changes. Because those of you think, oh yeah, we have a Republican governor, he's going to save everything or veto. The problem is the good bills don't get heard either, because they are the chair of the committees, and the committee chair decides what bills get heard. Hence, the governor's bills died because they didn't get heard in a timely manner. They'll blame the governor for the last minute stuff. The governor introduced his bills in April, but all of the amendments they wanted, all the adjustments, they dragged their feet and they died. And so the Democrats control what bills get heard. They control the narrative. Thank goodness we have that stop at the end, and a really great governor who's not afraid to use his pen.
Yes, thank you. And, another bill that got vetoed, thankfully, that I want to talk about is, they have the driver authorization cards for undocumented people. They wanted to extend that from 4 years to 8 years. So I asked myself, what's the difference between a driver's authorization card and a driver's license? So, that's, we got to come together and we got to have a positive message to win back these seats. I believe 3 seats down in Clark County are up for grabs. We have the Senate majority. We have the talking points. I don't think there's a lot of people out here that would agree with what the Democrats in Carson City are doing. And, we cannot have a Nicole Cannizzaro as Attorney General. That she's running for Attorney General. We can't have it here in the state. It would be a continuation of disaster. They want to radically transform the state. One of the bills that died, and I remember I got in trouble with Senator Skip Daly. It was AJR1, which it died, thankfully. But it would allow the pathway for them to change the formula of how they calculate your property taxes for your houses. And they were like, oh, it'll only affect, but it had to go to a vote of the people. It opened the door. They're like, let the people decide if they want to raise their own taxes, and I told them that it would, the people would not vote for that, so go ahead.
Well, one of the concerns is that unfortunately, just clarity, I did not support that, and many of us did not, or who are property owners, because we have more renters now we do in the state than property owners. So that bill potentially could have passed, because when you have more voters out there that don't have any skin in the game, it's easy to vote taxes when you're not paying those taxes. So I just wanted a little clarity that AJR1 did not. Our the whole tax formula here in the state of Nevada, I think, is needs some improvement. But that particular bill was going to put the onus on the property owners.
Right. And, remember, one thing that I know that's coming up next year is America's 250th anniversary. And I know President Trump and the White House, they're planning a great celebration. And we got to really remind the voters that the Democrats wanted to make National or Muslim Heritage Month in July. And they wanted to put Indigenous People Day on top of Christopher Columbus Day. And one of my highlights of the session, President Trump put on Truth Social a day before the hearing, and I already had my testimony written up, but he talked about bringing Christopher Columbus Day back from the ashes and preserving Christopher Columbus. So I got to incorporate that into my testimony, and it was cosmic timing. And, we got to remind people, the Democrats are un-American. We're very American, and we're going to have a great year next year celebrating 250 years of the United States. So thank you.
With that in mind, we're going to open it up to Q&A, but I did want to acknowledge Karen Conrad is our treasurer. Put your hand up so they know. Bill Conrad, besides being president, is also our AB guy, and Gary Butcher checks in and helps out. With that in mind, we're going to open it to Q&A. You can ask any of the 3 questions, and we'll kind of go around. Just if you're going to ask a question, come up to the mic, put it close to your mouth so we can pick it up on video. I think you have one.
Okay. I kind of came in late here, but this is an issue that we can all think about. We see what's happening in Texas. That kind of looks cool. Can we do that here? Can we do that in Nevada, what they're doing in Texas, redistricting?
Whatever you take it.
So thanks for that. Redistricting, as you know, is based on population, congressional districts, et cetera. We threatened to do that in 2015. We were going to start an early redistricting commission. And then, of course, that never played out. But depending on what happens, there's no way we'll be able to do that unless we're in the majority, at least in one of those seats. So again, the narrative is controlled by who controls the houses in the legislative body. And I think the governor will tell you that too. We can only do so much. We have great ideas, but when our bills don't even get heard, it's hard to start that. I think it's great. We've talked about it before. The gerrymandering has to stop. I actually supported a what happened in the past, which was a non-legislative commission to draw the lines. Frankly, a third of our population is not being represented. Frankly, we have the nonpartisans is the largest political party, registration in our state, nonpartisan, the largest. They outnumber Democrats, they outnumber Republicans. Be aware of that. And so I think we are not being represented. If you think about, frankly, in Carson City right now, there are 63, because there's 42 assembly people, 21 state senators. And just a quick civics lesson, every senator umbrellas 2 assembly districts. So there's 63 of us in Carson City. In that, we have only 8 Republican senators, and I think there's 15 Republican assembly people. So that's 23, but there's 63 elected officials there. They represent 2/3. We're only 1/3, but they're only 1/3 of the state population. So that is not equal representation. That is not one vote, one person, one vote. So they're getting 2/3 of the vote, but only represent 1/3 of the people. That is just absolutely wrong. So it has to change, but we can only change it if you put at least one of those houses in the majority. Long-winded answer, sorry.
Alan Munson, Ward 6320 precinct. God bless you. My question, a comment on, or what's your thoughts? They're talking about a special session, and I was reading there's one law that Governor Lombardo tried to get a crime bill, and then the other bill is the Dems want to. That's something about the Hollywood payout, but and I don't know if you could just make us all aware of what's coming possibly, because I guess they both agreed, that, Dems and Governor Lombardo to have this special session. So what's up?
Yeah, here's where it's so first and foremost, don't always read what you read in the newspaper or any journal or listen to any reporter. That's first, and you all know that at this table and these chairs. Second off, yes, there is a rumor out there that the governor is thinking of that. One of the things that is on my list when we fly down and meet with him on August 15th, my personal opinion is absolutely wrong, potential political suicide for him to call a special session unless it's truly an emergency. Right now, his crime bill did not pass, but everybody will survive. People like Wes Duncan, enforcing laws that we already have on the books, those kind of things. The key is enforcement, getting these judges not to let these folks out. That movie tax is political suicide in my mind for the governor. And I'm going to tell him that when I see him on the 15th, that at this point in time, I will tell you, I know Washoe helped our Governor Lombardo, but the rurals are the one that actually got Governor Lombardo elected. And the rurals are vehemently against this movie tax, this handout to, they talk about Trump billionaire handout. And I just bring it back to him. Are you kidding me? This isn't a handout to billionaires in the movie industry. And the other thing is, if you think about how we dilute our political climate here and who they bring in, and I told that literally, I had breakfast with the governor once a week, myself, Hafen, and the governor, the 3 of us. And those of you who know me know that I don't hesitate to tell you what I think. And I would tell the governor, listen, maybe there's 3 billionaire people that are come to Nevada in the movie industry, but do you think about who else they bring in? Think about the people, I'm going to leave the country if Trump gets elected. You know who said that? Those are the folks that they bring in. They dilute the vote. Is that who we really want to come to Nevada? I mean, I am all for about industry. You can come here, but use your own dime, for heaven's sakes. If you want to move to Nevada, move to Nevada. Bring your money. We'll take it. But don't ask me as a taxpayer to support that. And so, I'm pretty vehemently against that. So whether we're going to have a special session or not, there's rumors out there, but I haven't heard that the governor can call it an emergency. It has to be very specific in Nevada. The other way you can have a special session is if 2/3 of both houses call one. Believe me, my caucus isn't going to call a special session. So it's not going to come from the legislative process. It will have to come from the governor. Before I'd accept it, it's going to have to show me it's a true emergency.
How's candidate recruitment coming?
So after my staff and I are all going to be in on August 15th in Las Vegas, we are looking for good candidates. We have a number of candidates that are interested. So that's a key. If you know somebody in Clark County, reach out to us. 8, 9, and 12 are the districts. That's Pezinas, Dondera Loops, and Scheibel's districts. We are still recruiting. In this day and age of identity politics, here's the ideal candidate. It sounds terrible, and I'm sorry for all the guys that are in here because I defend white males. I love white males. Married to a white male, and I'm very proud of that. But you guys are in the minority now, and in identity politics, here's the best candidate. A female minority businesswoman. So you find me that, and they can get elected like that. We were successful with Lori Rogich. We beat a sitting senator, Dallas Harris, with Lori Rogich in Las Vegas. She was an attorney, a child advocate, and she beat Dallas Harris. I will tell you, it's doable with the right candidate. And so if you have friends in Clark County, send them my way. We're interviewing, the governor's on board. I met with the governor's team, and we're interviewing at the same time these candidates, unlike the last cycle where the governor was really angry. He used to be in sheriff, and he tells people what to do. When he became governor, he suddenly realized he had to deal with the legislative process. So he put he's a smart guy, and he said this last cycle, he said, I'm going to put people in office to support me. But he didn't include the assembly or the Senate leaders. And this time he says, no, you do it. I'll back you. We're interviewing together. So we need more candidates. We have candidates, but none that has risen above oh my God, this person is electable. I have a few in mind. I texted one today, please, but we'll keep working on it.
I had a question before. Do you have anybody talk about Washoe County, like getting rid of Skip Daly and getting some senator? I know we have the northern part of Washoe, but outside of that, we got slaughtered. One of you.
At this point, no one has reached out to run against Skip. If you have the ideal candidate, I think I am encouraged at least somebody running, filing in every single seat. We cannot let them get free rides. But I'm also a realist, and I like numbers. And so it's hard. We know in that 2014 cycle what candidates actually won in the world that we're going to be in this time around. The ones that won had less than a 6%, 10 to 6% margin. If you're in a greater than a 10% margin, R to D is what I'm talking about. Even in 2014, those folks didn't win. So you have to be realistic. I don't believe in a shotgun approach. I like to be in a dissection and really reality of what we can win, winnable races. I'm not saying don't have a candidate run against Skip Daly. I would love to have a candidate run against Skip Daly. But where I'm going to tell my consultants to put their money is into 3 seats in Clark County where we can win.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with what you just said about a woman, businesswoman, and preferably a minority. And yes, I think we have somebody that'll run against that worthless piece of garbage, Skip Daly. Anyway.
Can you hear me? Hi, good morning, good afternoon. Sorry, this is my third language. So my question is, the machine, why we still here in Nevada using the machine? Why United States is still using the machine? Because the machine is where is the work behind. So paper ballot is going to be the wonderful. That's my first question. Thank you.
You know, I definitely agree with you. You know, our election systems here is extremely flawed. You know, and I've seen it all over the state, especially how long it takes to count ballots and to get stuff. You know, I seen the machine. They put in new machines for the election last year, and there was problems with the machines when they were being installed and delays, and you know that's why we have to get more Republicans elected so we can take back our elections. You know, that's the first step. It is definitely, there needs to be a lot of work. You know, when I was in Las Vegas, watching, it was the primary last year, and you had to go through a metal detector to get into the building. You had to watch a video, and then and this was where they were tabulating the ballots. This was the Clark County Tabulation Center, Registrar. I forget the name of the building. But and so they would lead you, and then you would go back to where they were counting ballots, tabulating the ballots, all the different processes that they had. It was very complicated. But so you would go there, you would go through a metal detector, you'd watch a video. Somebody would escort a team of workers would escort you throughout the building, and then there would be a team of people watching the people escorting you and watching yourself as you was and then you would get to the area, and it'd be all plexiglass, and you couldn't see anything, you couldn't monitor anything. So that's one thing that we need to change too, is our access to what we can see and what we can't see, especially when we have areas where there's signature verification and everything is all based on the signatures. You know, I remember going to California in 2018, where, you know, they had the universal mail-in balloting, you know, and when I got there, Republicans were up by her name was Young Kim. When I got there, she was winning by 6,000 votes. She lost by thousands of votes once all the ballots came in and they counted them. But you were able to challenge the signatures. You would be able to see the signature and be like, oh no, I challenged that. You know, you don't have that type of access here. So, and I agree, we need to go back to a simpler way of running our elections. It's very complicated, and, you know, we need help.
Next question.
Okay. There we go. Okay, thank you. I work a lot with local government, and so I live by Dillon's Law, and I also live with the master plan that you have. Locally, the city of Reno is challenging the master plan, so I always have to go back to NRS. Could you explain to us Dillon's Law?
So I love an easy question. That would be sarcastic about that. So Dillon's Law, for those who don't know anything about that, even what the question is, there's a Dillon's Law and then there's Home Rule. Dillon's Law was done by a judge in the 1800s, and it really followed with the Federalist kind of paper. Then it works its way down. And so it's kind of like the 10th Amendment, where the states' rights, but only stuff that the federal government hasn't legislated, then the states have a right to do it. So Nevada is a Dillon's suit, and versus Home Rule, where everything starts in the local government. So I actually, the one example of that would be something like the strongest law enforcement officer, even though the feds would object to that, would be your sheriffs. Frankly, the sheriff in every county, and I'm married to a retired sheriff, so he doesn't hesitate to tell me this, is the most powerful law enforcement and has the right over any other law enforcement agency is your county sheriff. And that would be consistent with local rights. One of the things that the Judge Dillon thought was that it's part of the thing is that the government really should be able to control that from the federal level. But again, the states know best what's best for their state. Better than that, the local government knows what's best for the local government. So I am all about county ordinances, all about local municipalities deciding they know what's best for their community. And unfortunately, that sometimes comes in conflict with Dillon's law. But the good news is, if it's in my mind, and I'm open because I am not an authority on this. So anybody else, great. I did a quick look up on ALEC. The ALEC has, if anybody of you know about ALEC, they're a very conservative political national organization. They have a white paper on Dillon's law, and it really explains it. So if you want better explanation, look at ALEC's white paper on Dillon's law. But in my mind, I think Nevada actually does a pretty good job saying, okay, we can legislate you doing this. One of the problems that Nevada does a very poor job on, and you probably can testify to this, is that we like to pass a lot of laws that have mandates certain things that municipalities do, but we then don't give you the money to do it. And I think that's where the home rule would come in good, that the home rule would say, listen, this is what we want to do, this is what we can afford, and the state shouldn't be telling us what to do without funding it at the very least. And so I think that's where the home rule versus the Dillon's law comes in. So it's like the big brother said, we'll allow you to do this under Dillon's law. Whereas home rule says, no, damn it, this is, sorry for my French, this is our county or my city, and this is what we need based on our planning or whatever, and not have some bigger agency say, nope, 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 nope. The state education would be a perfect example, right? The state has this, we have a federal education administration, which I believe in getting rid of. Then we have our state school superintendent, and then we have 17 counties. And the feds dictate down to the state dictates down to the county. And I can tell you, my rural of Smith Valley, with my little school where I went to school with 12 kids in my high school graduating class, my mom had 12 kids, my grandmother had 3 kids, my granddaughter's there, and there's like 16 in her class. So the state shouldn't be telling us how best to educate our kids there. And that's but the federal government starts at federal government. So doesn't actually, so end of the day, simple line, Dillon's rule is a federalist kind of idea versus home rule. Yeah, this is kind of weird. Just a second. I'm going to get this better. Okay, I'm doing better. First of all, I'm good. Senator Titus, I wanted to thank you for your information that you sent. I don't know whether you realize exactly who you sent the things to, but concerning the crime bill, concerning the sanctuary cities, and concerning your particular problem with your 6 districts, and that you had 3 who signed certified letters indicating that there were not sanctuary, so they're protected through federal funds, but you didn't get 3 others. I just wanted to ask a couple of things. First of all, did you get your other 3? How many in the state now have been certified as a law and order ICE supporting unit, because we seem to be wandering into the wilderness on that? Yeah, thank you for that question. Interesting. Thanks for reading my newsletter. We told everyone on the radio too, whether you knew it or not. You became very popular for a few minutes. During session, one of the things is this whole ICE program. There's 3 different programs that the federal government has where you agree to cooperate with ICE or not. And when we looked into it, what was that all about? Turned out the only county in the state that had signed that agreement and actually making it work was Dan Coverly in Douglas County. And so I reached out to Lyon County, said, how come you haven't signed it? And they said, oh, no, we're renegotiating, we're going to sign it. Mineral County had already signed it. After I wrote an op-ed on why are we not cooperating, guess what? Las Vegas Metropolitan Police signed it. So we got kind of statewide attention on whether or not, are we going to support ICE? Now, to my knowledge, Washoe County hasn't signed that agreement. Well, I got a little pushback on that, my statement, because arresting, again, I'm not about arresting people that are here legally. What I am about is arresting the criminal groups that are here. We need to get them out of here. We need to get them arrested. We need to get, and then also get them out of our jails. But in the meantime, the pushback was, well, we don't have any room in our jails. It's too expensive for us. It's also too expensive not to do that. And we also get reimbursed. When you sign these agreements, you get reimbursed by the federal government for detaining these illegal criminals. So a sidetrack, I think everybody here is illegal criminals if they're here illegally, frankly, but that's another story. So we have had quite the response, and the biggest one was the Las Vegas signing it. No, that I know of. Maybe what?
And I just want to comment that one of Governor Lombardo's vetoes was AB 217, which would have prevented ICE from going into certain areas like schools and other places and creating sanctuary spaces. So, I just wanted to make note of that.
Ray, we have a question from out in the audience on the live stream. It's two. Let me answer real fast. I guess it's the whole board. From Independent Nevadans, which is a libertarian group. What is the one thing that the Nevada Republican GOP can do to turn Nevada red? Now I'm going to add something to that. What can the county central committees and the GOP do? One thing to turn Nevada red.
Well, one thing that I know for sure worked last year in the elections was having a space available for people who want to turn in their mail-in ballot. The office off of Keystone that we had off of 4th and Keystone, every day, once people got their ballots, and this is what gave me a really good sign about the election, people were coming in and giving their ballots to us. And I'll never forget the guy who he turned in 50 ballots, and he did a lot of travel around the Washoe County area helping people. And I just thought how incredible that was. One person, 50 ballots, and having a place available and open where people can participate in the election. And we had that. We saw that in our other offices across the state. I want to highlight Churchill County out in Fallon. They had a volunteer ran office that they put together for the last couple months of the elections, where they registered a whole bunch of voters and turned in a bunch of ballots from their community. So that's the first thing that comes to my head.
I want to jump on that too, because one thing we didn't bring up, and thank you so much for that question. Here's the key. We cannot not vote. We can't lose momentum. What happened last cycle to get Trump elected in the state of Nevada for the first time is voter turnout. One of the emphasis from the GOP, from all the clubs, is that focusing on voter turnout, getting the people, everybody in this room probably votes every election. The key is what happened last cycle was those folks those unlikely voters who maybe vote every 4 years or who register Republican and never voted. We are worried that they are not going to show up. They think they did their job. They got Trump elected. This isn't important. They're going to stay home. What everybody can do in this room and listening online is make sure that we continue to engage where those voters, low propensity voters, we need to continue to engage with them. That is how Trump won. We have to make sure we don't allow those folks to stay home this time. And that's the worry. When we do now, I was just at a national meeting in Colorado Springs of Republican leaders in the legislative process. And one of the emphasis at that meeting is and they've done polling, is that we're going to lose the voters that turned out last time because they voted for Trump and they were passionate. And now they think they've done their job. They're going to stay home. We can't lose them. We have to continue to engage with that group, because those are the ones that are going to keep us, or potentially get us, certainly in the majority in the Senate, turning Nevada red. And again, I can't overemphasize how important it is to make sure your neighbors get out and vote.
Tom Tabor, also AKA Mr. Jane Tabor. Jane's sitting over there. We happen to have a radio program on Fridays from 11 to noon called Conversations from the Capitol. But since the Capitol's conversations don't always make relevant sense, we appreciate if you would join in with us. This Friday at 11:30 to noon, we'll be discussing one of Tony's more ardent items, which is ADUs. Last night seemed like a very pre-planned planning commission. By the way, speaking of planning commissions, there are two people on the Regional Planning Commission that are on the Washoe County Planning Commission. The chairman of each one of those commissions happens to be the same person. There's one person on the Regional Planning Commission that's on the Regional Planning Commission is on the Renal Planning Commission. You said three? I didn't catch those. All I'm trying to get at is, as they continue with this mixture, some people say, hey, that's a great idea, because then they would be able to communicate. But what they also do is take their personal desires and push them through the rest of them. That's enough on those. Mr. Trump won the election. Everybody that I have talked with says, oh, we turned red. Look at the down ballot. Did we turn red? Did we take anything below Mr. Trump? Didn't do it. What Robin's talking about is terribly important, because the top of our ballot this coming election is Mr. Lombardo. If people are just going to go vote for the governor and then forget everything else, we're going to be in deep trouble again. Most of the time, I've only been at this for about 48 years, far less than what some of these other people have been doing. But I'm not saying you're old. I didn't say anything about your age. As somebody said to me the other day, he says, we were talking about age. He says, I got 20 years on you. I said, how old are you? He said, 63. I said, I beat you by 23 years. So at any rate, the biggest problem we have is particularly with the legislature, below the legislature. People will vote into the legislature. We don't have as big a drop. But once you get below the legislature, you get to where we happen to have our good friend that wishes to be a district attorney for Washoe. And Wes, I hate to say it, but a lot of people have quit voting by the time they get to where you are. And when we get to school boards, hardly anybody votes. And we've given up the ability to control our schools. We've given up the ability to control our cities. We've given up the ability to control our county because we do not vote, nor do we do something that Robin asked for, find candidates. I just gave Robin a name of an individual down in Las Vegas. And I gave you that name, Robin, because of all the people that we had on the radio program for the primary and the general election. She was one of three people, only three people that we thought did a heck of a job in approaching the political world. So these are all things. Every one of you here knows somebody. And we have given up everything below the legislature. Home rule, as Robin's talking about, requires participation at all levels in your county, in your city. And we're not getting that. We need to have it, and we need to have people vote in those particular areas. Nice to have President Trump, but remember, We don't have him to bring people out. Hopefully Joe Lombardo will bring people out, and hopefully people will vote down ballot. Enough of my ranting.
Thank you, Tom. And his program is very good. I'll allow one more question, and then you can talk to people after the meeting closes. Pam, you had a question? You got to speak close to the mic.
Hi, Pam Dar, Precinct 6411. As for illegal immigrants being here, yes, the criminals should go first, but people know them being here in the census, they take away our vote. They're voting too, believe me. They're finding a way to register to vote, and they're voting, not all, but there's some that's taking away our voice. There's so many reasons where even just the criminals, first year, get them out. Second year, I hope, and I think Trump's going to say enough. Step forward, register. If you have a claim, stay. We don't want to be mean, but it's not fair. There's people already waiting in line. It's not a win situation, and people are done. When they watched veterans being taken out of a hotel during COVID and put migrants in there, I think a lot of people said, that's it. It's a bridge too far. So I just want to make that clear. Please, I wish Lombardo would take a stronger stance. Trump won on that, and that's what we're for. And we're good people. We're not racist. So thank you.
Thank you, Pam.
I concur 100%. I mean, I think the reality is that we start with the criminal folks in our prisons, and then we actually, they're here, as I stated earlier, they're here illegally. They don't have the rights as a citizen. And so that's one of the things that Dem says, oh, they have these rights, you have to, no, they're illegally here. They have no rights as citizens. We have to treat them humanely, but that is the limit. And I get a lot of pushback from some of the universities to giving free tuition to illegals here when our poor out-of-state kids come here and have to pay these huge tuitions. It's just wrong. So yeah, but I concur with you 100%. But the priority has to be doing, just so you know, this is the first time in years we have less people coming across the border than leaving, right? And so that it's just by nature of the beast, they're saying, oh, well, we're not welcome here, so we're gonna leave. So I think that's just helping a lot.
Before we wrap it up, Tom was very right in what he said about we have to go from bottom up. We're not paying attention to school board, county, city elections. We're not paying attention. You have to get people, neighbors, to come out and vote. And besides, we need to get Robin to be majority leader, not minority, right?
Sounds good. Got a good ring to it.
Anyway, I want to thank everybody for coming, but before we wrap it up, you can stay and talk to them. September the 4th will be our next meeting, and on Thursday, it'll be a first Thursday meeting. And then we do first Friday the following day. And we're getting good turnouts on both. First Friday is social. The meeting luncheon is the 4th. And we have one of the candidates running for Attorney General and one running for Secretary of State. This is kind of early, but there'll be a good meeting. And we welcome you for coming. And hopefully you can go online, watch yourself, because we videoed all that. Some people are calling in. Thank you for coming.
And don't forget, we have extra sandwiches, $5 a piece for drinks, sandwich, and cookies or other things. Anybody wants a sandwich, $5. If you haven't got your sandwich, pick it up though.